Renewable energy in the United Kingdom can be divided into production for electricity, heat, and transport. From the mid-1990s, renewable energy began to contribute to the electricity generated in the United Kingdom. Building on a small hydroelectric generating capacity, this has been surpassed by wind power, for which the UK has large potential resources. Interest has increased in recent years due to UK and EU targets for reductions in carbon emissions and commercial incentives for renewable electricity such as the Renewable Obligation Certificate scheme and feed-in tariffs, as well as for renewable heat such as the Renewable Heat Incentive. The 2009 EU Renewable Directive established a target of 15% reduction in total energy consumption in the UK by 2020. As of December 2020, renewable production generated 40.2% of total electricity produced in the UK, around 6% of total UK energy usage. Heat from wood fires goes back to the earliest human habitation of Britain. Waterwheel technology was imported by the Romans, with sites in Ickenham and Willowford in England being from the 2nd century AD. At the time of the Domesday Book, there were 5,624 watermills in England alone, almost all of them located by modern archaeological surveys, which suggest a higher of 6,082, with many others likely unrecorded in the northern reaches of England. By 1300, this number had risen to between 10,000 and 15,000. Windmills first appeared in Europe during the Middle Ages. The earliest reliable reference to a windmill in Europe dates from 1185. In the former village of Weedley in Yorkshire, at the southern tip of the Wold overlooking the Humber estuary. The first electricity-generating wind turbine was a battery charging machine installed in July 1887. By Scottish academic James Blyth to light his holiday home in Marycook, Scotland. In 1878, the world's first hydroelectric power scheme was developed at Cragside in Northumberland, England by William George Armstrong. It was used to power a single arc lamp in his art gallery. However, almost all electricity generation thereafter was based on burning coal. In 1964, coal accounted for 88% of electricity, and oil for 11%. The remainder was mostly hydroelectric power, which continued to grow its share as coal struggled to meet demand. The world's third pumped storage hydroelectric power station, the Cruachan Dam in Argyll and Bute, Scotland, came online in 1967. The Central Electricity Generating Board attempted to experiment with wind energy on the Lunn Peninsula in Wales during the 1950s. But this was shelved after local opposition. Renewable energy experienced a turning point in the 1970s, with the 1973 oil crisis, the 1972 miners' strike, growing environmentalism, and wind energy development in the United States exerting pressure on the government. In 1974, the Central Policy Review staff recommended that the first stage of a full technical and economic appraisal of harnessing wave power for electricity generation should be put in hand at once. Wave power was seen to be the future of the nation's energy policy, and solar, wind, and tidal schemes were dismissed as impractical. Nevertheless, an alternative energy research center was opened in Howell, although it was criticized for favoring nuclear power. By 1978, 4 wave energy generator prototypes had been designed which were later deemed too expensive. The wave energy program closed in the same year. During this period, there was a large increase in installations of solar thermal collectors to heat water. In 1986, Southampton began pumping heat from a geothermal borehole through a district heating network. Over the years, several combined heat and power engines and backup boilers for heating have been added, along with absorption chillers and backup vapor compression machines for cooling. In 1987, a 3.7 megawatts demonstration wind turbine on Orkney began supplying electricity to homes, the largest in Britain at the time. Privatization of the energy sector in 1989 ended direct governmental research funding. 2 years later, the UK's first onshore wind farm was opened in Delabul, Cornwall, 10 turbines producing enough energy for 2,700 homes. This was followed by the UK's first offshore wind farm in North Hoyle, Wales. The share of renewables in the country's electricity generation has risen from below 2% in 1990 to 14.9% in 2013, helped by subsidy and falling costs. Introduced on 1 April 2002, the renewables obligation requires all electricity suppliers who supply electricity to end consumers to supply a set portion of their electricity from eligible renewable sources, a proportion that will increase each year until 2015 from a 3% requirement in 2002-2003, via 10.4% in 2010 to 2012 up to 15.4% by 2015-2016. The UK government announced in the 2006 Energy Review an additional target of 20% by 2020-21. For each eligible megawatt-hour of renewable energy generated, a tradable certificate called a Renewables Obligation Certificate is issued.